Three types of releases. Hi, this is Shihan Hussaini, your archery coach and director of Go Archery Mission, as well as the director of the Coaches Committee Archery Association of India. You are in the Level 2 Compound Bow Specialization Workshop of Who Archery Mission and the Archery Association of Tamil Nadu, TAAT. In this section, you will learn about shot execution with a compound bow, which is otherwise known as the release. You're going to learn about three different kinds of release. There are various techniques for executing a shot. We will now make some comments about some combinations of the following four principles. Two of the principles will refer to the intention of the shot. Firstly, commanded release, and secondly, surprise release. Two of them will refer to the part of the body generating the shot. First will be the finger triggering, activating the trigger with a finger. And the second, continuous draw increase, back tension, body tension, and spreading. It is useful to know the following methods when teaching your archers the proper use of a compound release. Now let's check out commanded triggering or commanded release. The name of this technique is self-explanatory. This is a combination of a triggering action. A finger suddenly activates the trigger. This technique is also possible when using a release aid without the trigger. The archer suddenly changes the angle of the release hand. It is usually not a recommended technique. Well, on command, when the visual aiming references, your visual aiming references have reached an enough good optimum quality level, this technique has a limited field of efficient action when it is very, very windy. Otherwise, the mental order that the archer has to send to the finger embeds a perfect follow through, and the shot happens while the archer is no longer aiming. Also, rapid finger motions often disturbs the overall steadiness of the archer. This is why this technique is also known as perfect aim and an imperfect shot. Two classical bad evolutions of this technique are punching the trigger, a technical mistake known as finger hit in shooting, in rifle shooting. This is also known as target panning. Smooth or progressive triggering. Let's go to smooth or progressive triggering. This is a combination of a triggering action. A finger activates the trigger, but so continuously that the string is surprisingly liberated by the trigger. This technique is also possible when using a release aid without the trigger through two alternatives. The archer progressively changes the angle of the release hand. This alternative is usually not recommended. The change of angle of the release hand, is achieved by activating the muscles of the archer's back and posterior part of the string shoulder. In this method, the bow is aimed at the target and the trigger is continuously squeezed, usually slow, while maintaining the muscular tension in the archer's back. A proper squeeze on the release should result in a surprise shot when the trigger gets off and the string is released. If implemented this way, it is an excellent method, the best way to shoot a compound bow. There are two common problems with this method. The first problem, the archer does not provide a continuous squeeze towards the end of the draw but commands the release with some sort of a punch as described earlier. Due to either some impatience, the archers have a stable sight for a while and the continuous squeeze has not yet allowed the triggers to go off. Some fear, bhaya, for surprise release. The archer is afraid that the trigger will go off when the sight will be out of the target center. They are scared that it will suddenly go off. B, the second problem, the archer regulates the speed of the squeeze according to his aiming quality. Quite fast squeeze when the peep, scope and target are well centered. Slow squeeze or worst, he or she stops squeezing when unstable, misaligned or the bow wiggles a lot. When this regulation applies, we are very close to the technique of commanded triggering as described above, and the mental activity is split on the sighting and squeezing activities. Nevertheless, it will not be efficient to continue squeezing the trigger the same pace when the sight is really away from the target center. Hence, some regulation skill has to be developed in case of abnormal sight wriggling, as long as the archer does not fall in the commanded triggering as described earlier. A huge percentage of compound archers, probably more than 90%, are learning to shoot by manipulating the trigger. The reason they manipulate the trigger is because it is easier to learn and results in instant results. However short term they may be. There might be results, but the results are not going to be permanent, they are going to be short term. Among the most frequent negative long-term effects of the improper use of releases, we can report back and shoulder muscles relaxing before the shot is over. Target panic, surprise release generated by a continuous draw increase. According to some experts, this is the technique. The best, the ultimate technique. It is a fact that over the last 15 to 20 years, this technique has become quite popular among the elite compound archers. This method of shot execution is often called back tension. We all say back tension, back tension. This is back tension. With this method, the archer aims at the target and increases tension in the back or the posterior part of the string shoulder, regardless of where the sight goes. Of course, the archer always has the option to let the shot down and start all over again if they do not like where the sight goes. The outcome of the method is a surprise release resulting in perfect form. One of the main advantages of this method is that it keeps the archer's mind away from the trigger and the trigger hand, allowing an excellent follow-through. Let me order. In order for an archer who may be struggling with the concept to experience the feel of a surprise release, the coach may squeeze the trigger of the release while the archer aims safely at the target. When the archer is aiming, the coach can trigger it with his own finger. The sight may not be perfectly centered when the bow goes off. In opposition to the commanded triggering method, this one can be summarized as the imperfect aim and a perfect shot. Imperfect aim and a perfect shot through which the arrow is guaranteed to hit inside the wiggle area of the sight because it is executed with perfect form while the subconscious mind makes the necessary corrections. With practice, the wiggle area gets smaller and these groups of the arrows get tighter. By strong wind, it may be more hazardous to solely use surprise release when it is windy. Well, thank you. You just learnt about the various kinds of releases. The commanded release, the progressive release, and the surprise or sudden release in a short execution with a compound bow. Catch you soon with another session. Now let's all of us break up here. Well, as I told you again, since the lecture is loaded with information, it is not going to get into the mind easily or soon. But if it does, then you must be truly a genius. Please listen to the lecture over and over again in your headphones immediately. It's not going to be on YouTube forever. We are going to remove it in about 2 days or 1 day after 24 hours. So better start listening right now today. This will truly help you understand what I am saying. Keep repeating, listening till you are thorough with it. God bless you. Catch you soon again in another session. This is who. Bye-bye.